Let's get things underway and introduce our first keynote session for the IPA National Conference. One of the reasons that I stepped down from 7:30 was that I was just so tired of being immersed in the negativity of the world all the time, because the news, of course, is full of things that make us feel anxious and uncertain and concerned and just add to this general feeling of, something being kind of wrong. So you throw in the social media world as well, and strangers arguing with each other, abusing each other, and it's no wonder that some of us kind of feel like switching off some of the challenges in the world around us. Hopefully our first speakers today might be able to help address a little bit of that feeling. Future Crunch is a thought leadership and media company with a mission to help foster intelligent, optimistic thinking about the future and to empower people to contribute to a 21st century that works for everyone. They advise businesses, governments and not-for-profits around the world and showcase the latest in science, tech and human progress. Today we're joined by healthcare humanist Ria Mercado and ecologist Shasta Henry. Please welcome Future Crunch.
Right now, there are 10 humans living in space. And there is a nuclear-powered robot searching for life on Mars.
And then halfway between the Earth and the Sun, 18 gold-plated beryllium hexagons have unfurled to help us gaze into the farthest reaches of the cosmos. Check this out. Now, back here on the planet we call home, there are underwater robots mapping the seafloor of Antarctica in high definition. We've got drones flying through gigafactories in Berlin. There are even 14-ton driverless tractors autonomously ploughing the fields of the American Midwest.
And just last month, scientists unveiled an mRNA vaccine for solid cancer tumours. And earlier this year, a fully paralysed, locked-in man was able to communicate in complete sentences using a computer which was connected to his mind.
So, it's not all bad news. Good morning, everyone. My name is Shasta Henry.
Good morning. My name is Ria Mercado, and together, Shasta and I are
Future Crunch. Now, Future Crunch, as you've heard, is a think tank. We're made up of disparate specialists, but we're united by a reasonably simple mission. We aim to understand what is going on out at the cutting edge of science and technology.
And we seek out and share stories of human progress to help organisations and individuals like you understand what might be coming next.
Yeah. And so this morning we're going to be sharing with you a skill that is being called the most important skill in the workplace today. It's called your adaptability quotient, or AQ for short. And the Harvard Business Review, in fact, is calling it the next competitive advantage. So what is AQ? It's your ability to work out what is relevant, which then allows you to unlearn obsolete information. It's the way that you are meeting challenges by making a conscious effort to change in real time. Essentially, it is your ability, either innate or learned, to flourish in an environment of fast and frequent change.
And today we get the opportunity to share with you what this looks like across the diverse organisations and individuals. But we're also going to share with you some strategies and tips on how you can cultivate this very mindset. But first, let's take a little bit of a trip back in time. We're going to share with you why right now is the perfect time to be adaptable, when we feel like we are all characters in this movie that has quite an unpredictable script.
A really unpredictable script. If we take the pandemic, for example, 783 days and counting of non-stop zombie apocalypse. It was complete with angry mobs, rioting in the streets, and of course, devastating daily body counts.
But fortunately, we were saved by a team of medical avengers who developed a vaccine just in the nick of time. Right now, almost 75% of world's humanity have received this vaccine and this antidote, making this the largest the quickest and the most successful public health campaign of all time.
Yes, and now this marvelous universe works in other mysterious ways as well. If we take the war in the Ukraine, a tragedy in itself, but it may have actually done more to accelerate the clean energy transition than any other event to date. Of course, countries woke up to realize that war can stop the flow of oil, but it can't stop the sun from shining or the wind from blowing. And that means that things are getting fast and furious in other sectors as well. There are now more than 20 million electric vehicles on the road outside right now. And you can buy a battery-powered ute that will go faster than any production Ferrari ever made.
Sign me up for one of those, Shasta. And in China, there are quantum satellites which can teleport information over 1,000 kilometers instantaneously. There are restaurants in Singapore and in Tel Aviv who are serving up 3D lab-grown printed meat. And there is also in Japan a cafe which is housed entirely of avatars. And that is robots which are controlled via the internet by people who might otherwise be confined to their homes.
Yeah. Now, if none of that seemed cinematic enough for you, check this last one out. The president of El Salvador has proposed to build a Bitcoin city at the base of a volcano so that it can be powered by geothermal energy. What an incredible place. I know what you're thinking. A haven of zero taxes, where the streets are paved with magical internet money, built on a tectonic fault line.
Sounds a bit shaky.
Possibly ruled by the next Bond villain. I don't personally see what could possibly go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, neither do I. And we've all gone from looking at our silver screens and going to the movies for our entertainment to now peering at each other in little tiny boxes for all of the things all of the time. And you know what? If we were in fact in a movie, what an absolute tragic comedy it would be, because even the CEO of Zoom admitted that he had Zoom fatigue. Now, if you're feeling fatigue, totally cool, totally fine, because you have a right to feel drowsy and dusty and battered and bamboozled.
Yeah.
After all, like in Jurassic Park, we've made it all past the T-Rex, and here we are waiting for this helicopter to come and take us back to the real world. Though, there's no helicopter, because my friends, we are in the real world. This is the real world.
So why does our real world seem so strange? And how actually can we be expected to stay adaptable when the pace of change simply seems to be accelerating out in front of us constantly? The first thing I want to explain is a little bit about how our brains work. Hopefully this will help create a lens for viewing the world, understanding why things look like they're changing so quickly, and also why that makes us feel so uncomfortable. So it turns out that we have these evolutionary hangovers. This creates cognitive bias. It's a blind spot in the way that we think, and that leaves us ill-equipped to understand the pace of technological change, which of course is impacting so much of the world around us. Our brains tend to think in a linear fashion. We take changes that we see around us and we extrapolate those linearly into the future. And the problem with this is that technology doesn't grow linearly, it grows exponentially. And so when we are trying to predict where is technology going, what is the future going to look like, we're left with a perception gap. In the short term, we overestimate what technology might do and impact our future. That was us expecting hoverboards. But then in the long term, we dramatically underestimate what technology is going to become possible, and that is that feeling of unease and disconcerting surprise. This is called Amara's Law, and it is impacting our perception of everything from blockchain and robotics, from medicine and mobile phones.
Though as scientists, Shasta and I find it delightfully ironic that it wasn't an exponential piece of technology like 5G or blockchain or even the metaverse that forced us to go digital over the last 24 months. It was biology, a tiny bundle of protein which is about 10,000 times smaller than a grain of salt.
Just a small thing.
The thing is, technically, we've actually been able to go digital for many, many years now. We chose as humans not to do that. And why? It's because mammalian habits are very, very hard to change.
Yeah.
What we've all experienced over the past 24, 36 months is a convergence of two extremely powerful forces. One is disruptive technologies, and two being the global pandemic. And the combination of these two have caused an unprecedented upheaval in pretty much every single industry all at the same time. So from financial services, from medicine, manufacturing.
Absolutely. In my field, in education, I'm presuming that things are never going to look the same ever again.
Yep, in public service, in workers' compensation, you name it. We saw what would have been years and years and years of change simply crunched into a few months.
Yes. But this does also mean that now is also a remarkable time of opportunity. Everything got blown wide open. But that also means that the way we now work feels far more flexible than it used to. And in fact, our customers and our colleagues and our co-workers are also feeling more amenable to change. We basically all got forced to see that it was possible. That also means that now is an ideal time to be asking ourselves some difficult questions, some pragmatic questions. What talents do we want to foster in ourselves, in our teams, and which skills do we have that are no longer fit for this future? You see, to be successful, we have to be prepared not just for the known unknowns, but actually for the unknown unknowns as well. And we actually find our first piece of inspiration perhaps in an unlikely location of mental flexibility. But keep in mind that the US Navy is constantly having to ask itself this question: how to be prepared for the unexpected. And so recently, looking around their operating environment, they saw that the world was changing. Civilian and military technology growing exponentially. Even the geopolitical centre of the world had shifted. And this means that they were facing an entirely different set of challenges, of threats, even of opportunities. The single most dangerous thing that they could do was nothing. Stay the same, maintain the status quo. And so the way that the US Navy met this new set of challenges was by creating a new class of ship.
Check this out.
This is the USS Gabrielle Giffords, and it's remarkable because it's modular. It means that its insides can be swapped out, allowing it to set sail as a minesweeper or a submarine hunter or a surface combatant. But the most futuristic aspect is the crew. Only 40 sailors means that it's less than 1/5 of the complement on an older ship of the same size. This is a concept now known as minimal manning, and it overturns hundreds of years of military tradition.
And it sure does, because as you can see on the screen, 1 minute the sailors might be pulling on the lines, and the next they're chefs and they're cooking in the mess. A few hours later, they might actually be on the bridge learning how to navigate. See, instead of specialists, each sailor is like the ship itself, modular, a Jill and a Jack of many trades, and not just a master of one.
Yes. And in fact, not everyone can work in this kind of environment. Not everyone can be this flexible. And so the military is also now changing its recruiting process. They're now targeting people who can flexibly shift, who can flourish in this fluid environment. Of course, in the military, having the right people in the right place at the right time can literally be a matter of life and death. And now the right person is someone who can do many things quite well, rather than just one thing with military precision.
And this flexibility, this ability for us humans to adapt to the unexpected, and is now the most crucial skill in any organisation today. But here's some good news, because this is what we do at Future Crunch.
Yes.
We humans have this amazing ability to adapt. It's actually quite intrinsic for humans to adapt. We are wired for this. Does anybody want some proof?
We can give you some proof.
Some proof.
We brought some proof with us today.
Yeah,
You
so
brought
just
some proof with you
look
today.
in your pocket. Just pop your hand. Like, have a look in your pockets.
Probably
We
got
brought
one
it
in your
to
pocket.
you today. Yep. And
It's
then,
your hand.
Oh, it's your hands. So have a look at these hands. These are a work of art. There are 27 bones, 29 joints, and those big, beautiful, opposable thumbs.
Yes. We do want you to take a moment to be in awe of your own machinery because it really is quite remarkable. At one end of the spectrum, you've got all of the strength of a rock climber. You can actually hang your entire body weight off of one digit.
Some practice.
The other end of the spectrum, you've got all of the skill of an origami grandmaster. These same tools can be used to create the most delicate of objects. It's because these are complex tools. They've been developed over millions of years, and we mean it. They are one of the most beautiful examples of engineering in nature.
But what really sets our hands apart is what guides it. And what guides it is our brains. You see, our brains and our hands have evolved together, and that gives us something that's way better than any artificial intelligence.
Yes.
And what would that be, Shasta?
It's evolutionary intelligence. Our machinery isn't fully pre-programmed. We're not robots. It's constantly evolving, mostly based on our interactions with the infinitely complex world around us. And so you all are different people than you were at the start of the pandemic, of course. But you're also different people than you were at the start of this week. In fact, even at the start of today, because the gargantuan tapestry of your brain has integrated your experiences and is weaving you into something new.
And our brain's remodeling abilities is a lifelong gift because it allows us to compensate and to shift and also to compensate for our weaknesses.
Ooh.
Now, if you want more proof, because that's what we love, human beings have been able to adapt and to thrive and to survive in so many different environments. From the African savanna all the way to Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
We have people living in the outback and even 10 humans living in space.
Yeah. It's our evolutionary intelligence, our intrinsic adaptability that allows us to think outside of the box, and then to think outside of the sphere, and then to think outside of the stratosphere. People are pretty cool.
People are cool. Yeah, look, people are cool, and I've spent almost 20 years working with people, but machines are pretty awesome too, right? We have these machines now that can build, we have algorithms that can transact through millions and millions of transactions only in a matter of minutes.
Pretty remarkable. We have created artificial intelligence that can look through scans of human tissue, actually capable of picking out cancerous growths that are so tiny they would have eluded the world's best human radiologists. We've done the lot. We've created flying robots, we've created crawling robots, we've created jumping robots. There's even a robot surgeon in space.
We do like space at Future Crunch. There's even a robot that can manipulate a Rubik's Cube. Check that out. Looks just like that beautiful hand that we have. But there are also robots who can solve a Rubik's Cube at superhuman speeds.
Solving in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You should be impressed. It's the current world record, 0.38 seconds. But no matter how impressive these robots are, these machines are specialized, meaning they can only do one job. And then, facing just one hurdle or obstacle, they can't even do that one task any longer. And so this robotic hand is never going to write an inspired love letter to your spouse. The artificial intelligence is never going to cook that one-off incredible meal based on just what's left in the bottom of the pantry and the fridge. And yes, machines can send text messages for us, but they're never going to learn a valuable lesson from accidentally sending one to the wrong person.
Oh,
Sorry, Grandma.
sorry, Grandma. Interestingly, robotics researchers have a name for this, and they call this Moravec's paradox, which is the observation that humans and machines have opposing strengths and weaknesses. You see, we tend to believe that what makes us humans special is that we can logic and that we can reason. Though machines are now able to do this quite easily. That's exactly what machine learning is and AI is all about. It's about finding hidden patterns, classifying stuff, and optimizing absolutely everything.
Yes. The good news for us is that where humans really shine is where the rules get broken.
Yes.
It's where we have to make those cognitive leaps by linking together seemingly unrelated concepts. This is at the core of both creativity and innovation. It's how we take the novel and make it familiar, or taking the familiar and then recasting that into a whole new light. This is where we see creativity, and where we see that creativity is also where we see progress.
So to give you an example, we're going to have to get a little bit rock and roll. Any metalheads in the room? Oh, there's always a few.
We'll find you.
Yes, there we go.
We'll find you. We're about to weed you out.
This is for you.
Вдома дорогами світ обертається разом із ними ми знову.
And we see you in the back.
See in the back. And this band's name is O Torvald, and they held socially distant concerts during the first wave of European lockdowns because they knew they couldn't have the traditional concerts with this mushed up mosh pit. And so instead of asking their fans to buy tickets to concerts, they asked them to book hotel rooms instead. We would like to welcome you to Vertical Concerts. This is where the drinks are delivered directly to your hotel room and you can crash out in same hotel room after the concert is done. Look, to me, I was like, no more battling car park lines. This is a cool way to do a concert.
This is clearly better than a normal concert.
Who's in?
Who wants to go to a Vertical concert?
One here at the
I want to go to a Vertical concert.
All right. Awesome. And this is the thing, everybody agreed. So
Yeah.
during that first wave of lockdowns, they held a series of these concerts, which brought a brand new revenue stream to one, the stranded bands, I did it again, and two, for the empty hotel rooms.
Yeah. One decision, two entirely new revenue streams. It's elegant. So we have another example. You may well know Slaughter and May. They are an international law firm and they are based in the United Kingdom. They're also part of what's called the Magic Circle, which is the 5 most prestigious firms in London. And this one is widely considered to be the most conservative of the 5. So the picture we're trying to paint here is that it basically doesn't come any older and stuffier than this.
But that was until a few years ago when they teamed up with a startup tech company called Luminance. And what Luminance does, it provides AI and uses AI to scan documents during big mergers and acquisitions. And this tool that Luminance had was able to identify key clauses, find anomalies in all these documents, and it ended up saving staff hundreds and hundreds of hours of poring over near identical documents.
Yeah, the best results that they found from this was that the stack of paperwork could be finished in half as much time with actually better accuracy. And it's hard to ignore stats like that. And they didn't. The technology was actually so useful that Slaughter and May acquired the company and then started applying this artificial intelligence technology to every aspect of their practice that they could. They're using it to surface patterns from their massive stockpile of documents and from their databases full of legal precedents. Jane Stewart, whose whole job is to find uses for technology in law, says that Luminance is useful everywhere that they have unstructured data. Only you can know how much unstructured data you're sitting on in your office. But there was also another unexpected benefit. It actually made the firm more attractive to the best and brightest graduates.
And this is because those best and brightest graduates grew up with technology at their fingertips. And so they have an expectation about the use of technology within their own workplaces. And that one of those expectations that they did not have to do the mind-numbing grunt work just because previous generations, like mine, did it.
Yeah.
Highly trained lawyers then were able to focus on more human tasks, like actually meeting with their clients, negotiating deals of the terms of the deal, and spending more time analysing what really needed to be analysed.
Yeah. So hopefully you can see here that AI hasn't replaced the jobs of these young lawyers, certainly not. What it has done is transformed the work that they do and the way that they do it. This is one of the most conservative law firms in the whole world. And yet they had to stand back and ask themselves a question. What was their true motivation? Was it maintaining the status quo? Was it protecting the old guard, making young lawyers do hard work just because old lawyers had to do it? Or was their motivation being the best? Now, they no longer see law tech as separate from the practice of law. It's not just a nice to have, it's become quickly intrinsic and ingrained in everything that they do.
Final example we're going to give you is another one that involves a Ria. This, however, is Ria Shah, and she is a designer in Mumbai, India. And when the pandemic hit India, Ria, just like all of us, asked, oh man, what can I do? What can I do to help here? She didn't know where to start, so she looked very close to home. You see, Ria's family owns a paper factory in Mumbai, India. And when you think paper and the pandemic, you think, how does that work? She also found out that the hospitals were needing beds. And that is when the inspiration struck. Ria combined two previously unrelated concepts, paper and hospital beds, and the outcome was...
So the outcome was a cardboard bed fit for the pandemic. These things are so strong that you can jump on them. They're actually also produced with a plastic film so they can be sanitized and reused. The most important part is this remarkable piece of flat pack furniture can be produced for just $13. It's of course a fraction of the price of a normal hospital bed. And it means that one small paper factory has been able to produce and send out over 300,000 of these beds to hospitals all over India. So you can see that's just one person. Two apparently unrelated concepts, the simplest of technology, and then hundreds of thousands of lives have been changed.
Right, that's a lot of information, so let's round this up a little bit. What does a US Navy sailor, European rock stars, some stuffy lawyers in the magic circle, and a designer from Mumbai, India all have in common?
It isn't their IQ. It is not their qualifications, their intelligence quotient.
And it's not their EQ either, not that skill that we have to empathize with each other and communicate with one another.
Yes, of course, the unifying factor is their AQ, their adaptability quotient. Although all three of these quotients are somewhat complementary. If we look at the example of you applying for your job, your IQ is what put your resume at the top of the pile.
And your EQ is what gets you through that interview and laugh at those ridiculous jokes from the interviewer. And when you finally do get that job, because you're so amazing, the EQ is what allows you to speak with your colleagues and also connect with your customers and your clients.
Yes, but it is your AQ, it's your adaptability that will see you be successful in the long term. Because it's adaptable people who are able to pivot when that algorithm comes along that can inevitably do 30% of what up until now were your daily tasks. The winners are people who can use their adaptability to pick up tasks, new tasks, that the algorithms cannot replace. So AQ is your ability to work out what is relevant and use that information to unlearn obsolete knowledge. It's how you meet challenges in front of you by making a conscious effort to change in the here and in the now. And that is why the Harvard Business Review has been calling it the next competitive advantage. Now, you're all smart people. It's why we're in this room together today. And so you might be asking yourself, Shasta, Ria, if this is such an important skill, the next competitive advantage, the Harvard Business Review, most important skill in the workplace today, well then why is the workplace the one place where adaptability seems so desperately absent?
The thing is, you already know why.
You do.
Right, let's walk this through.
Yeah.
When you start your career and you're starting to learn a new skill, you're actually learning by fumbling along and making mistakes. You're open to guidance from other people who are a bit more skilled at it by you, and you're prepared to make those mistakes. But as you progress along your career, you start to hone in that learning process. You're streamlining it. You're saving time. You're getting pretty good at it.
Yeah.
But then one day, if you're not too careful, you are going to hear yourself say that one terrible phrase. Oh, no, that's just how we do things here. Right.
If you hear yourself saying something like that, you know you've lost perspective, right? Yeah, but it's not surprising either. If you find the best way to do something and you keep doing it the best way over and over again, if we keep using the same neural pathways, you're inevitably going to carve a rut and get stuck in it.
And this is where we run into that paradox that the better you are, the more you know about a subject, the less open you are to learning more about that same subject.
Yes. And so our first piece of advice for exercising and developing your personal adaptability quotient is to put down the mindset of the expert and to embrace the mindset of an amateur. Now, the word amateur in current society is pretty much just used as an insult. If I said, Ria, the work that you're doing is very amateurish,
It's awful.
that's not going to feel good.
Thanks, Shasta.
But it actually comes from the Latin word for love. Amateur describes a person who adores their endeavour. Amateurs aren't doing things because they're part of a professional development package. They're doing them because they feel compelled. They're interested to dive in and experiment and hash things out as they go along. Yes, they will learn all of the important rules, probably the first time they break them. But they're also poised to discover all of the unnecessary rules by never realising that they applied to them in the first place.
And look, it's definitely scary, especially at work, to have to admit that you don't know. Right? But let's face it, nobody can know it all.
No.
And nobody likes arrogant know-it-all, right? We hope that you will be courageous enough to say, oh, look, I don't know. Because two cool, amazing things are going to happen. When you say, I don't know, number one, someone's probably going to tell you the answer.
And now you do know.
Now you do know. And number two, when you can courageously say and confidently say, I don't know, then you have adopted the amateur mindset.
Yes. Now, I have another approach that we like to recommend, and this is called strong opinions lightly held. Of course, if we are honest with ourselves, we can all struggle to let go of our really good ideas. Having them challenged can feel personal, and that can also feel uncomfortable. If you're anything like either of us, being wrong isn't exactly a feeling that you enjoy. But one slide ago, we all agreed that nobody knows it all. We're all going to get it wrong sometimes. I actually caution you, the thing we should be more concerned about is being wrong without realising it feels exactly like being right. And that is a really difficult high horse to climb down off of.
It certainly is, Shasta, and this is where adaptable people get around this by admitting that even if there's a small chance, they could be wrong.
Yes.
Right. So that means when new evidence comes along, like in science, or a better idea comes along, that they can gracefully change their minds.
Yeah, yeah. Which is actually how we get to do things as scientists.
Exactly right.
As scientists, we're in the luxurious position that changing our mind is actually part of the methodology. The scientific method, in fact, is a way of thinking that not only allows for correction, it was designed to be constantly evolving. You get one new piece of evidence, one contrary fact or figure, and science will insist that you rethink everything you thought you once knew. But that is actually why it is incredible, because it can change. It's actually those changes as they build up that change the world around us. So ask yourself, can you think like a scientist? Can you be open to correction and to having your mind changed? If you can pull this one off, what is so powerful about adopting this mindset is that when you show your team that your opinion has room to evolve, you're also giving these other people around you a respectful space to share their ideas and change their minds as well.
Oh, that's a lot.
Okay.
Seems really challenging, Shasta. Does that seem a bit challenging?
We've given you a lot of homework
given
and
you
a
a
lot
lot
to
of
think
homework
about.
to
We
do,
understand that. We don't want to minimise what we've set on the table in front of you.
But as you grapple with the daunting task of breaking down all those beautiful, reliable walls that you've built up inside your mind, and then opening yourself up to making those really embarrassing mistakes and then learning from those very embarrassing mistakes, our third piece of advice is also a piece of good news, is that you can outsource your adaptability needs. And this is exactly what we do here at Future Crunch.
Yes.
We collaborate and we describe ourselves as being diverse, by design. We are a team of unlike minds, which means that when we do have a problem, we can source our answers from our scientists,
From our healthcare humanists,
we have poets and artists, and we even have Gus.
we even have a Gus, we even have a political economist who we're putting to good use.
Yes, Dr. Gus.
The point here is that in each of your communities, you are also surrounded by these people, disruptive thinkers. And I don't know about you, but some of them are going to look a little more disruptive than others.
Yes, there are a few in the back row there that I can see. I've kept an eye on you the whole time. One thing is for certain, though, if you want true disruption, you must look to the people who know less about your subject than you do, because they too will know less about your perceived limitations. Because you know why? They don't know that that's just how you do things here. No.
The more diversity you have access to in perspectives in your network, the less you have to keep crammed inside of your own head.
And this allows you to connect with other people and to be able to connect all the dots of information.
Yeah, it's another elegant solution. For example, if we ask an engineer to tackle a problem, their solution is going to look a certain way.
But if we ask our artist to solve the same problem, the solution is going to look a very different way.
Yes. And lastly, if you are part of a team full of diverse people with their diverse experiences from their diverse backgrounds, their genders, their beliefs, their countries of origin.
And a team of curious and innovative minds who've been empowered to stumble along and make mistakes and also to make suggestions.
Then you're going to have all of the problem-solving potential of those people. You're going to have all of their solutions at your fingertips all of the time. Right? And it's this that tells us that collaboration will always trump genius. Because we need each other. If we want to reach new heights, if we want to tackle our goals, if we want to confidently face the future, we need each other.
We certainly do, because none of us know exactly what is coming next. What we do know is that we have the ability, the innate ability to transform it into something that's of benefit to each other, but also for our planet. And this opportunity to grow yourself and your business, your organizations, and perhaps you can even learn to love the science and the magic of change. We have so many things and so many reasons to be excited, right? It doesn't even matter where you start. If it's cultivating that amateur mindset, if it's holding your strong opinions a little bit more lightly, or if it's realizing that your opinion has room to evolve from within, or even with information from without.
Yeah. Just remember that you are remarkable and you were built for this. We have it inside all of us to be smarter and to be stronger and to be kinder. So you will never be too old and you will also never be too young to set out on that adventure of trying just one new thing. Thank you all
very much.
very much for your time.
Thank you.